Where are you tonight? I couldn't say goodbye. You were still echo in my mind. The stars fall down, lighting up the sky.